I lost 2 hours worth of work today. Was using the iPad app for Google Docs and cranked out a ton of work on the plane. And I guess it got into some bizarre state and it lost itself and said none of that was recoverable. It's very, very sad. Those types of applications and the infrastructure that drives them shouldn't do that, but I guess you're taking a risk by using an app in a very closed OS and ecosystem. So, was riffing on a few things. One, I'm really curious about how disruptive AI as just a kind of Gen AI tech is going to be over the next year. And I was doing just a thought exercise around what does this stuff do if it's as disruptive as I think it potentially could be, where you have changes in technology that could potentially render a business moot in an afternoon. And the frequency of change becomes the catalyst for what's going on in the world and business. And I know that's sort of an extreme thought exercise, but I think it's valuable to at least think about where as a business you could be made irrelevant in a day or two versus now when you might be made irrelevant in a year or two, and sometimes not even that long. And I know that it is kind of an extreme example, but one of the interesting pieces to the thought exercise is that what if you were an organization that was cycling in and out of red versus blue ocean type territory where you can be a traditionalist and you can be conservative or whatever you want from that point of view, build a business and operate in a marketplace and provide value and services and then generate revenue and profits and all that normal stuff that you would as a business. But what happens when you're made irrelevant? I mean, do you cycle between being in that blue ocean versus the red ocean where you have to continually reinvent yourself? And if that frequency of change in the pace and just sort of the velocity of that becomes ridiculous or untenable, what does that do to you and how do you account for that? That was the first kind of piece. And I'm maybe trying a new thing here with the video to maybe make up for losing that data in the application. And then also I started kind of looking through Freeform because I have a huge Freeform board that's got some artificial intelligence and development components to it. And I found it really interesting that, one of the John Robb essays from probably a year ago, maybe just a little bit less than a year ago, started talking about two competing systems. And this was before the AI wars began last May, where all the walled gardens went up. And he said that there were two competing systems, the East versus the West, China versus the rest of the world. And if you really look at it, it's China as a state versus private corporations or public corporations here in the United States. And the way that I was kind of riffing on this was more around the lines of what is the value of taking Western data through vehicles like TikTok and other applications, funneling it into that AI research from a Chinese perspective. What value is that? Those are very radically different cultures, and I find that interesting that might be part of what they're talking about. And then also vice versa, the same, because U.S. and just general Western culture is shockingly different than Eastern cultures. And I was trying to figure out really where while we know they are competing, but what's the real reason and what's the driver behind that other than just vacuuming up data? Or I guess I should say siphoning up data. And then the last bit that I had in that thing was around, and I made this statement, I'm going to continue to use this, I think, is that I am a system competing for energy, space, time, and data. Me. Everybody around me. We are a system in and of ourselves. Like human is a system, and we have these subcomponents to us that do these types of things. And I'm interested to see what that looks like and if there's anything there. Because the way that if you look at it, I mean, a really good analogy, and again, we're going through thought exercises here, but another analogy would be around the 1999 Matrix, where you're a subsystem, a greater, or a part to the greater whole as a human. And I'm not riffing into we're living in a simulation. That's not where I'm going with this. What I'm trying to focus on is you in and of yourself are a system that's competing for energy, time, space, and data. And in that competition, you're going to take from others, you're going to give to others, you're going to collaborate with others, things like that. But I was trying to help myself understand what the value of my data is. It's unique in many ways, just like everybody's data is unique. And when I say data, I mean experiences, story, contribution, content, collateral, all the things that a human produces over the course of their life. And I think it's an interesting thought exercise. Anyway, that's what I had in that document that got lost. And I thought I would try to record this, and I'll save this for posterity out on a drive somewhere so it doesn't get lost, or maybe I'll even publish it to YouTube. But I thought it was an interesting thought exercise, and I'll try to riff on it a little bit better, and I'll try to maybe continue this if it works, because everything's great when it's new, but then we tend to fade because unless we're focused on a thing for a reason, it's very difficult for us to stay, have longevity on something like this. So there's a thought exercise for you.